Milwaukee on a beautiful March 19th. Hopefully you all have positive thoughts and hopefully you're heading into spring break soon so that you can figure and for those of you that aren't, I hope that it's 75 degrees and sunny here for you in Milwaukee. All right, so today will be interesting. Uh, I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of change going on with our industry. That's probably no surprise to any of you. So my goal today is to give you two things. One, I think a matter of perspective is incredibly important right now and where we're at. Okay. Two, there's two major change. Well, there's lots of major changes going on in the industry, and we have to learn how to adopt change. Okay. Change is what not change. This is my key theme for today, and I need you to hear me on this. Change is not what eliminates people. It's people's inability to change with change is what eliminates people. Okay. So we're going to go through two major changes. One, I have Jared from the Metro MLS on who's going to talk about our favorite topic, aligned showings. It's going away April 5th. Okay. Sorry, showing time is. Thank you. Hey, aligned showings is going away. You heard it here first. Uh, Two, we'll talk about what's going on in the industry. And quite frankly, I'll give it to you how I know it and see it. Not that I have all the answers for you. And I'll kind of help you set the tempo as to how we plan to operate moving forward and what that looks like. Sound good? Cool. Know this. I expect there's going to be lots of questions. We don't know what's going on. I found out about everything that was going on while I was sitting at St. Aug Prep on the South Side doing senior portfolio presentations, and my phone started blowing up, and I said, huh, something just happened. I better figure out what's going on. So I knew about this Friday, Saturday, Sunday is about as much as you did while we were trying to figure it out. So cool, fair, love it. Let's rock and roll. All right, so mission, vision, values, beliefs, and perspectives. I don't think there's been a better time to talk about seek first to understand, right? Seek first to understand. Seek what is going on, understand what's going on, and then learn how it impacts you. And we will help you get to where it is that you want to go. With that, I do have a handful of people to celebrate because this is the last team meeting that we will have over the next 2 weeks. So we have a handful of people to celebrate for February Cappers. First up, one of the original OGs, an incredible human, always willing to give back, probably gives back more than she ever realizes that she does. Laura Brewster, congrats on capping in the month of February. Next up, someone who's been setting the pace in our industry for the last 30 or 40 years. The Grand Dame of Milwaukee real estate, Katie Falk. Congrats on capping in the month of February. Next up, an incredible human, always positive, always comes from a mindset of abundance, has really built an incredible business, Holly Gambling. Congrats on capping. Next up, also an incredible person of abundance, really positive energy, really great person within our community, Jen G. Congrats on capping in the month of February. What you give in this world is what you get in this world. Okay? I firmly believe in that. And the next person gives more than she gets. And it's coming and she's building a great business. Emily Gilders, congrats on capping in the month of February. Next up, this person used to be working the kitchen, hard hours, has learned how to navigate this business in a tough environment, is learning from an incredible father. And I love multi-generational businesses. Pete Jr., congrats on capping. Next up, an incredible member of the team. Just has a really great outlook on life. I've gotten to know their partner as well, James, just great people. Say congrats on capping in the month of February. Next up, an incredible go-getter, always talk about taking action and doing the things, but also giving back to our community by supporting the United Way campaign in a variety of other ways. Ginger Lazovic, congrats on capping. When we say FTC, there is no one who is FTC more than this person because she is the culture of FTC. Shawnee, congrats on capping. Similarly, what you give in this world is what you get in this world. And for the last several years, we have gone to Zacharias Acres to make an impact because the introduction this person made is the captain of the Optimist Club out in Lake Country, an incredible person, Kevin Matson. Congrats on capping in February. I call him the pace car, the pace setter. He's been setting the pace in our industry over the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years. Always been an incredible member of our community giving back. Jay Schmidt, congrats on capping in February. Next up, the Queen of St. Patrick's Day. Nothing more needs to be said. Bridget Ty, congrats on capping in month of February. These next two talk about multi-generational businesses and the impact that parents can have on kids and helping change their life. It's incredible when you see people who get to spend time with their parents and how they build something really special. So Nick Wessel, congrats on capping in the month of February. And Rob Wessel, congrats on capping in the month of February. Lastly, they are wild. That's really all you need to know. Dan and Sherry Wild, congrats on capping in the month of February. So, couple office operations updates for the group. Okay. There's no team meetings the next 2 weeks. Despite the announcement that happened on Friday and helping us try and figure out how we're going to help you navigate it, we had always planned a 2-week break during spring break because the public schools are off next week and the Catholic schools are off the week after Easter. And I'm going on spring break and a lot of our leadership team is going on spring break. So there is no team meetings Tuesday the 26th or Tuesday the 2nd. However, next week, Tuesday the 26th, is another rendition of Value Squared with Gary, Jay, and Jason, all around how do you articulate your value proposition in today's day and age. Interestingly, I was on a webinar with those guys yesterday, and what did they say? The content that they presented last week is going to be different than the content that we're going to present this week. Why? Because the market has changed and they're going to evolve their content with it, and they will help you be at the forefront of that. So if you're interested in participating, that is March 26th. There are 2 dates that I'll talk about coming up in April. We are looking to secure a location in April to do one large event for those that haven't participated in Value Squared, so stay tuned to what that looks like. We'll also be hosting a panel before or afterwards with a variety of our peers to help talk through the content as well, so stay tuned for dates coming for Value Squared in the month of April. Sound good? Lastly, from an operational standpoint, just want to give you a heads up on Friday, March 29th, which is Good Friday heading into the Easter holiday. The offices will be closed in observance of the Easter weekend. So just please plan ahead. You guys will have access to the office 24/7 with your fobs. But for those of you who are in and around the Milwaukee area, please plan accordingly on Friday, March 29th. Sound good? Sweet. So, a matter of perspective. Someone shared this with me last week before Friday, which I thought was really appropriate come Friday. Okay. And this is a very elementary way of me putting the thoughts onto paper to help you understand a matter of perspective. Cool. All right. So on the x-axis, you have time. And on the y-axis, you have a matter of intensity. And at any moment in time, personally or professionally, you go through events that are positive, events that are negative. And here's what I know when events happen. We overinflate the value or the moment of the event in the moment of time in which the event occurs, right? So in the moment when things happen, you go through things like fear, anxiety, uncertainty, you're nervous, okay? You become emotional. And quite frankly, that's okay. You don't know what to do in the moment. And in the moment, it feels as if the event is the biggest, most important thing that's going on in your life. And then what happens? As time goes on the x-axis and y, we look at the intensity. Guess what pops up? A second event. And the second event feels more intense than the first event, right? And as a matter of perspective over time, we overvalue or overinflate the intensity of a moment in time during the event that occurred to us, personally or professionally, positive or negative, right? And I think about that because this was shared with me when I was thinking through like aligned showings, right? Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Our industry is going to change. Think about COVID. Oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Things like this. Moments of time personally, death, divorce, a variety of different things happen. And we think it's the biggest thing that happens to us in the moment. And then as time goes on, what happens? More events show up. Well, let me just say this. Growth and evolution occurs because the event number one becomes less intense because you grow and evolve as a person, right? It's the whole concept of a man never crosses a river twice. He's never the same man, and he never crosses the same river. It's the same thing. Growth and evolution occurs because of the event that happens within our lives. So then as time goes on, you have event number 3, and you can see how the intensity, as time goes on, the intensity goes down. And then you look at it and you say, wow, I really grew and evolved as a person. And I understood that what I thought was super intense in the moment became less intense over time. And then life just becomes a matter of moments. And those matter of moments build towards growth and evolution as a person, right? So as a matter of time and a matter of intensity, we just have to look at things in the continuum of time and how we grow and evolve as people in order to move on from the events that happen in the moment. Does that make sense? Cool. So I share that with you up front as a way to introduce Jared, who's going to come on to talk about the transition from showing time to aligned showings that is going into effect on April 5th. Fair? All right, so jumping back in. Aligned showings is here to stay. I know there was a question to extend the showing time. I can tell you that that's not going to happen. We have to accept where we are. April 5th is coming. We got to learn how to utilize the platform. And if you have feedback to it, send it my way. Seriously, send it my way. I think that I will have more success in getting the feedback into the hands that needs it instead of just filling out a form. So if you see things, hand it to anybody in leadership. We'll work through it to drive a collective voice to it. And we can speak to it to our leveraging our influence to help create change. And I will amplify the intensity and frequency that I give feedback in order to create a little sense of urgency with our partners in MLS. Fair? Cool. All right. So a lot going on. Next, training and education. Here's why I'm leaning into training and education. I've been saying this ad nauseum that we're leaning into it because of the market of the moment. The market's tough. It is, right? Like we can all admit that. The other thing is changes within our industry are forcing us to evolve. We've been talking about change within the industry since November, okay? The settlement or the trial came out October 31st. If you remember, then we started hosting dialogues and conversations in November. We hosted an event in December. We've continued to host that, and we are going to increase the intensity and frequency in which we have those starting here in April and May, because we need you guys to get ahead of change, not behind change. Make sense? Normally at this time of year, we go a little bit quieter on training and education because of the market and the speed in which the market operates. Yet we're going to have to learn how to do both and operate fast and learn how we evolve. Make sense? So a couple things that paying attention to. March training calendar, you can see here heading into Easter is starting to slow down. We are finalizing April's training calendar here this week. No surprises. The training calendar that we created for April and the training calendar that will be publicized will be slightly different as some evolution as to what's going on in the industry. So pay attention to some incremental opportunities for you to learn from your peers and learn how we all navigate the market of the moment. Secondly, last week we held on Wednesday, ironically, the buyer agent compensation mastermind. It was incredibly well attended. Over 80 people attended. Not only did Bruce, Paul, Maureen, and Catherine share their insights, I know that Rick Reuven jumped on. I know John Molitor shared. I know a variety of other people shared. Here's what I know. We also recorded it for you in order to listen to it back. Okay. So if you need to listen to it back, you can listen to it at 2x speed and get it done at 50% of the time. That's usually how I listen to things. The more you put into your RAS, the faster you will evolve with the market. So the reason why I share this with you is so that you guys, if you need to go back and listen to some of the insights that your peers shared last week, as most relative as Wednesday, and guess what? We're going to be hosting more of these in April. We will continue to host these moving forward. Love that someone's already looking at the YouTube already.
So they need to use the QR code for the email.
Got it. Two things. It is not a public YouTube channel, this one thing. surprise, surprise, there's a lot going on in the industry. We're trying to protect liability. So the only way you can access this recording is via the QR code that's on your screen right now, or stay tuned because I'm going to give you a recap of today's team meeting in a special email later on this afternoon that will also have a link. The only way you can access that recording is through the link. Make sense? Cool. Next up, value squared. We've talked about this a lot in terms of how do you articulate your value to your clients? How do we navigate the market of the moment? The live stream is happening next week, 26th. We'll have it in all offices beginning at 12 p.m. We will also have dates coming up. Stay tuned for April 10th and April 25th. We're going to lean into this. Okay. We got to help you evolve and we're going to help you change. Next up, April 29th. Guess what? Glover was coming for two reasons. One of the two reasons we are changing. One, he's coming to give his listing presentation and help you understand how do you create systems to take more listings. Why? There's never been more of apparent of a time that you need to become a listing agent. Listings are the name of the game of the future if you want to make sure that you secure your income, right? So he's going to give his entire 5-step listing presentation on April 29th. The second piece of it is he is now creating content all around how we are having and articulating conversations with buyers and what the negotiations with buyers looks like in order for you to get value consummate to what your services that you offer. So April 29th, Jeff will be coming to you live in Milwaukee from 1 to 4 p.m. at the War Memorial. Registration is now open today. Make sense? Cool. Lastly, we're collecting items for foster care kids through the month of March. Here are the items that we're looking for in each location. Feel free to drop them off. I know that we have a variety of folks that have dropped stuff off, and we're incredibly grateful for what it is that you guys have provided already to help foster care kids get to camp this summer. Sound good? So last week, I gave you a breakdown of the vision speech, and I thought this week I would reground you in 2 or 3 things that we talked about in the vision speech to help you understand your value as we go into the conversation around where we are as an industry. 1, general themes that I shared. Real estate is a contact sport. Never been a better year to be the economist of choice. Let me tell you what it's really like. Be the economist of choice. The best defense is an elite offense. I'll talk about that a lot today. 2, method of a home purchase in terms of the buyer side. Last year, 89% of all transactions had an agent involved. That was up from 86% the year before. People are telling you they value your services in a complex market. Believe that. The data tells us it's true. 3, those that use buyer representation agreements, historically, 59% had not utilized it. I would see that that number is going to dramatically change. We need to get better at articulating our value in terms of how we get buyer agency signed in advance, because that is coming. We have to accept that reality. There are many times when I have conversations with agents and I say, they're like, oh, I have so many buyers. I have so many buyers. And I've literally been asking this question for about 7 or 8 years. And I say, great, how many of them do you have under buyer agency? And they say, well, like maybe 2 or 3. And I'm like, so you only have 2 or 3 clients. Next, like you don't have 20, you have 2 or 3. So we have to accept the reality that this is coming and we have to be really good at articulating what it means and why they need it signed. Okay. 3, in terms of satisfaction, it was over 90% satisfaction that both buyers and sellers had said in satisfaction surveys of your services. So not only did they use you 89% of the time in both the listing side and the buyer side, they had a 90+% satisfaction score of your services. You are valued. You have something to offer. We have to learn how to evolve in what it is that we offer and how we articulate it. Make sense? So where are we and where are we headed? Okay. I'm going to give you some general commentary up front, and then I'm going to give you the nuts and bolts. That's a little bit of the legalese. First of all, be careful to the voices that you are listening to. Okay. It's amazing the voices that are in the market right now coming off as, let's just say, experts on something that hasn't, we're learning how it changes in the market. And remember, the market will determine how we move forward, not an agent on TikTok. Okay? The market will determine how we move forward. Second piece of this. This came out Friday at about 9:30 in the morning. The settlement agreement was 137 pages. Okay? There is no way in heck first of all, that the settlement agreement hasn't been agreed to yet within the court system. Two, there's no way anyone can become an legal expert on a 137-page settlement agreement in the matter of 1 to 2 hours. So my word of caution to you is this: we're going to have to evolve, and we're going to have to learn how to move forward. And be careful what you're putting in your RAS, because what you put into your RAS will either feed one of two wolves. And I'll finish with that at the end. Make sense? Cool. So, couple things, and I'm going to read this directly so that I don't screw it up, and then I'll help you give a little bit of my opinion as to what this means for us within our environment. Okay. First, and this came out yesterday from Keller Williams International around 10:30 in the morning. Everyone should have received this. It was a long email. I consider long emails as anytime I have to scroll on my phone more than twice, it's a long email. However, if it's one long email you should probably read and understand, it's this one, which is why I'm going to read it for you. First, in the settlement with NAR, buyer representation agreements will be required moving forward. Agents working with buyers must sign a buyer representation agreement with buyers before the agent can show a home listed on the MLS. In our environment in Wisconsin, that shouldn't be much of an issue. Something that we've all dealt with. Most other states, for perspective, a buyer representation agreement was a voluntary form in the past. We're ahead of the curve because of the environment we work in. Okay. Unless inconsistent with state or federal law, the buyer representation agreement must include these things. Agents must disclose the amount or rate of compensation they will receive or how this amount will be determined. We are going to have to figure that out. The days of us expecting that our commission is going to 100% solely be paid by sellers, we have to get off of that narrative. And we cannot be scared about that narrative moving forward and how that changes or evolves. Two, the amount of compensation must be set in the agreement such as a percentage or dollar amount and cannot be open-ended. For example, the agreement cannot say buyer broker compensation shall be whatever amount the seller is offering to the buyer. Has to be clear and has to be concrete. Okay? Again, we're going to evolve as the market, how we evolve within the market. There's no telling how this is going to work today, but we're going to have to start getting used to it today because the conversation is coming up today. Make sense? Okay. Agents cannot receive compensation for brokerage services for any source more than the amount of or rate agreed to in the buyer representation agreement. For example, an agent could not accept an offer of cooperative compensation for more than the amount or rate agreed to in the buyer representation agreement. Okay. Two, offers of cooperative compensation cannot be made on the MLS. This is probably, quite frankly, the biggest change that we will have to learn how to navigate in how we increase our level of communication with our peers and where this information is found. More on that here in a second. Agents cannot make offers of cooperative compensation on the MLS. MLS must eliminate all broker compensation fields on the MLS and prohibit the sharing of offers of cooperative compensation in any other MLS field. NAR also cannot create or support any non-MLS mechanism, such as internet aggregators website for sellers or listing agents to make offers of cooperative compensation to buyers agents. Two, sellers can offer concessions to the buyer. This is incredibly important because this is something we're going to have to learn how to navigate both as listing agents and buyers agents. Sellers can offer concessions to the buyer in a public comment field in an MLS listing if the concessions are not conditioned on paying the buyer's agent commission. Okay. However, as a part of the negotiation of the purchase contract, sellers and buyers can agree to apply the concessions to the buyer's agent's commission. As a practical matter, even though it cannot be called cooperative compensation, the amount of a seller's concession can match the amount the seller would have offered as a cooperative compensation as a part of the contract negotiations. So, hang tight. Okay, and real quick, I want to say this with a disclaimer and a caveat. I'm learning about this and trying to learn how to evolve with it at the same time you are. I may be slightly ahead of it because I spent my entire weekend digging into these documents and looking for answers. Here's what it's basically saying. You got to go back to part one. Part one is you have to have clear compensation agreements with your buyers in advance. If a seller is offering a concession to a buyer to attract a buyer, and that the concession is that equal to or a portion of the agreement that you had in place with the buyer can apply that concession to the compensation that you agreed to in advance. If the concession is greater than what you agreed to in advance, it does not mean that you get 100% of the concession. Does that make sense? This will be the one nuance that we will have to dig into as to how this plays out in the marketplace. I don't know what that looks like yet. Yes, John.
So the buyer agency could read 2.4% or as compensation stated in
No.
Number two, they can state it in public remarks, but it's also not.
But you don't know how they're gonna.
It's a concession that the seller is making to the buyer, and if the buyer applies it to the agreement that you have for what you agreed to up front, they can. But it is not, it is, just to be clear, it is not a concession that is offered to the buyer's agent. It is offered to the client. The client, the buyer, correct.
But if it's not offered the total commission and just can't publicize it, then why would they even stipulate that? Why would they just like offer the commission to co-broke and then upon conversation with the buyer's agent?
I don't know. More to come. More to come. I just have to help you understand how we're going to have to evolve. Yes.
Does the concession, the exact amount have to be in the remarks, or can it be addendum A, you check it off and you guys decide?
The question was, does the concession have to be in the remarks or can it be in the addendum A? I believe it can be in both.
So in other words, we can create our own concession.
You can create concessions in the moment. Correct. Let's just hang tight on questions just so I can get through, because I think we could stay here all day and talk about questions. Fair? And to be honest with you, I don't have all the answers. Okay, here we go. 3, offers of cooperative compensation may be made off the MLS. Nothing in NIR's settlement prohibits sellers or listing agents from making offers of cooperative compensation to buyers off the MLS. Before listing agents can offer compensation to buyer's agents, they must disclose and obtain a seller approval for any offer in conspicuous language that stands out and is clearly visible. So, as a part of a marketing strategy, a listing agent can publicize a cooperative compensation. It just will not live within the MLS. There is a piece of technology here that is going to play an importance to you moving forward. Hang tight. An MLS cannot require an agent to require agents to make or accept offers of cooperative compensation as a condition to joining or participating in the MLS. MLSs also cannot require that offers of cooperative compensation, if made, be blanket, unconditional, or unilateral. It will be interesting to see where this goes in relation to the MLS. And I think there's never been more apparent the time that the platform that you utilize to communicate will become even more important moving forward. Your newsletters, email communication, your websites, all of that are going to become even more important as to the way you communicate offers of compensation, because it can be done off the MLS. Make sense? Stay with me here. 4, brokers can publish offers of cooperative compensation for their own listings on their own websites. Although MLSs are prohibited from publishing cooperative compensation offers, the settlement allows brokers and their agents to publish seller-approved cooperative compensation offers for their own listings, but not other brokers' listings on their own websites. So I can tell you this already because I was on a phone call yesterday at 11 o'clock. From a KW perspective, this is already in development. Okay? Already in development in terms of how we syndicate cooperative compensation on our KW listing network platform. Okay? The other thing I would also tell you, and this is something that we did not thinking about how this was going to play out in the courts, was the Keller Williams listing network that we do here locally in Milwaukee, in terms of how we bug you on Friday and we bug you on Monday in order to gather your listing information. And then on Tuesday or Wednesday, Willis sends you the information in a spreadsheet as it relates to all of the listings that are forthcoming. If there wasn't ever a time to be paying attention to that, I would start leveraging or flexing the muscle as to how you get into a rhythm or routine so that we can make that more robust for you. Make sense? Because that is a field that we can populate, and it is a field that we can articulate internally. Make sense? There are a lot of things that we have to think about how we do differently in order to better serve you guys and how we communicate offers of compensation moving forward, if they exist. That's a big understanding there. 5, agents must make commission disclosures. Agents must disclose in listing agreements, buyer representation agreements, and pre-closing disclosures that broker commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. We've been pretty good at that, right? NAR must require realtor boards and MLSs to include these disclosures in any form agreements they publish. Got it. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. We'll get that done. Make sense? Yes.
Will we, excuse me. Will we be able to post like the Tilbrook commissions?
Would we be able to put what app? Yes. It's a part of our technology. Sorry. Correct. Okay. 5. Here we go. Next. This is fascinating here, and I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I will make a general commentary. The release of liability. The release of NAR's settlement covers NAR, state and local realtor associations, MLS owned by realtor associations, most agents who are members of NAR, and certain brokerages that had residential transaction volume of $2 billion or less in 2022. To be covered under the NAR's release, an agent must be a member of NAR when official notice of the settlement is sent to home sellers, which will happen in the month of June or July. Just be prepared. They have to notify home sellers in the month of June and July. The notice expected in July of 24 or later. Okay. Now, NAR's release does not cover any agents affiliated with Home Services of America and its related companies. Home Services of America, for perspective, is any Berkshire affiliated business. Okay. NAR's release also does not cover agents who are employees or other corporate defendants named in the broker commission lawsuit, which includes Keller Williams. Okay. Here's where I'm going to stop and pause. If you remember, it was in January, I made the announcement that Keller Williams agreed to settle for $70 million. Okay. Part of it was Keller Williams' foresight to provide clarity as to our business moving forward. I want you to hear this from me because I got a lot of questions over the weekend. You as an individual, you no longer have any liability that you need to worry about. Okay. There's nothing you need to worry about as it relates to E&O. There's nothing as it relates to insurance. We're in a very, very good spot where other people have some exposed liability moving forward is those brokerage houses that sold over $2 billion in residential volume in the year 2022. This does not release them of liability, which means there is a scale. And if I spent the time to read the 137 pages over the weekend, there's a sliding scale that they will have to pay in order to release them from liability based on their volume. This impacts brokerage houses such as Ad Properties in Chicago, EXP nationally, Compass nationally, Shore West locally, First Weber Group because of their association to Home Services, which I would imagine they will settle here shortly. There is still some liability within the marketplace, but I can tell you, you as your affiliation and association to Keller Williams are in a good spot, and you don't have to worry about liability or big teams being brought into this or some of the things that we were concerned about in November and December. Do you hear me on that? Okay. I don't, here, the question that was posed in the room was, what happens to agents that came from those brokerages that still have outstanding liability that moved since 2022? Here's my take on it. The brokerage house, as an overall macro picture, owns the liability. They will have to make decisions as it relates to their economic model, both on the revenue side and the expense side, as to how to manage that liability moving forward. I don't foresee a scenario that an individual agent would be exposed to any of that liability in any way. I don't. I could be wrong. And again, this is not legal advice. This is not me saying that this is fact. It's just me giving my personal opinion as about where I think the industry stands. Make sense? Lastly, on this one topic of release of liability, you will not hear me talk about this publicly. You will not hear our team leaders talk about this publicly. This is an industry situation that we are all in together, and that we will wrap our arms around our peers in order to help everybody navigate the market moving forward. This is not a moment for us to take shots or negatively go after any other brokerage house. And I expect our peers to be doing the same within our own KW community. You got me? Cool. Next. So a lot to go into that, and there's a lot still to be determined. I want to share with you my personal opinions and thoughts about where we are. Okay. And I'll share this with you in a note coming that will come out from me later today. One, it is not a revolution, it's an evolution. Okay. Change is happening for everybody, no matter which brokerage house you're affiliated to. Agents are going to be around and business is going to happen. However, we're at a devising point within our industry. There will be a division between the amateurs and the pros. There will also be a division as to how the industry operates moving forward. And I would foresee a scenario where there are tiers and levels of service. So don't be surprised when you see new business models pop up that are there just to serve buyers, similarly to where you see flat fee brokerages pop up just to serve listings. Don't be scared by it. It's going to happen. Just be confident in your approach as to how you navigate and what your value is that you offer. Yes, Jay.
Because look at Lake Country Flat Fee, look at their business in 2022 and then 2023. In a market in 2023 where everything sells, that business should have exploded because any seller could go. Actually, their business was horrible in 2023. As the market gets more aggressive, clients or buyers and sellers go to the expert. So
Jay's commentary for those on the call was, if you looked at the flat fee results in 2022 and 2023, you would have expected them to explode, and it actually went in the opposite direction. And in a market of complexity, people look and seek answers of professionals, okay? And they are going to view you as a professional, and how we help you navigate the buyer side of the transaction and how you professionally articulate with confidence will be your ability to earn commensurate to what your value truly is within the marketplace, because the market will determine it. Make sense? Okay. Next. Yes, Rick. The question was, will the brokerage be dictating minimum seller side and buyer side commissions? Appreciate the question. Here's what I tell you. Commissions are always negotiable. Buyer side commissions have never been more negotiable. I don't foresee a scenario that we would ever, there won't be a scenario that we would ever require any sort of buyer compensation. We can't. Okay. The listing side of the equation, we're going to have some really good legal counsel as to how we plan to operate in this market, because I will tell you this, we won't become a minimum flat fee brokerage. And so there is a standard, and we've been given legal advice on this, in which the business can and will operate, because we can't just do it for free. And so sometimes the reason why we have minimum standards is to protect you from yourselves, as well as to help you understand where our value is and help train and educate you. And that's still to be determined on what that is and where that plays. Is that answer sufficient? Appreciate it. Nothing like getting put on the spot in front of 200 people. All right. Next up, your mindset has to be, I'm going to win and I will evolve. It cannot be some of the mindset that I heard over the weekend when people were reaching out. And look, fear, anxiety, nervousness is cool. And it's okay. I want you to hear that from me. It's okay. But we have to get out of this. What does this mean? How if sellers aren't offering buyer compensation? What does this? We just have to learn how to evolve and to adapt. Okay. It's time to double down and accept a winning mindset, because change is not what eliminates people. The inability to change with that change is what eliminates people. Okay. And lastly, I will share you this. At Christmas, I got a Christmas card. Okay. And it was fascinating to me. This family who sends these Christmas cards every year. It's an incredible person in our community. And I won't expose them. It's an incredible person who is incredibly philanthropic, wildly successful, not in our industry, in a totally different industry. But on the back of his Christmas card, he sent something on the back of his Christmas card that I've had, if you see the little hole, I've had posted on my desk since Christmas. And I want to share it with you because I thought it was incredibly powerful in the moment that we are in. And it is this: The Tale of Two Wolves. A Cherokee elder was teaching his young grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he said to the boy. It's a terrible fight, and it is between two wolves. One is evil. He is angry, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, self-doubt, and ego. The other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The same fight is going on inside you and inside every other person too. The boy thought about it for a minute, and then he asked his grandfather, which wolf will win? The elder simply replied, the one you feed. That is where we are in our moment of time in our industry. The wolf inside you that will help you navigate it and will help you come out on the other side in order for you to get what you believe you are worth and what it is that you desire to get out of this business is the one you ultimately feed. Okay? We will help you because I best believe we have never been better positioned to support you in this change. At our core, we are a training and education company. We have a community of people that are lifelong learners. We have a community of people who know what it means when the world is run by those who show up, because you show up, you learn, you evolve, you adapt, and you change. Not every other community in our southeastern Wisconsin is the same. And there are many of our peers that are trying to figure out how they're going to navigate herding cats of independent contractors to help them navigate the market of the moment. And we are in the best position to help you do that because at our core, we are a training and education company. Stick with us. The market's going to move fast. There's going to be a lot of questions. And look, I expect there to be a lot of questions, and we're going to help you navigate the market of the moment. Make sense? Cool. Sweet. So in the essence of time, really quickly, I just want you to see one other thing, and I know that we've run a little bit over. Okay, I'll go through this quickly for you, and then we'll circle back to this. One thing that I want you to notice is we've already started consolidating resources for you at kwrealtymke.com. Okay, if you go within our local website under the Agent Hub, yesterday we started pulling all conversations, every resource that we have, any script, dialogue, anything that we have related to where our industry is going to live here and be updated here on a daily basis. The other thing that you will see, for those of you who haven't checked out the YouTube page yet, we have created a playlist and we have pulled every conversation we've had that's been recorded and put it into a playlist to help you evolve with the market of the moment. From last Wednesday's conversation to the contract training that was had in January with Martha Ola to some of the notes and commentary that we had in December, we are going to start gathering everything so that you have everything you need in order to evolve with the times in one place. And we will continue to put those resources there for you. Make sense? Cool. Outside of that, did I touch High Point it? Sweet. High Point it, it's the tale of two wolves. The one that will win will be the one that you feed. And you have a choice as to how you react to the market of the moment. Guys, thanks for showing up. Lake Country, I'll let you jump over to the Lake Country meetup. Toast, I'll let you do the same. North Shore crew, for those that want to stick around, we'll do a little mastermind for the download. Thanks, guys.